Welcome to Let Your Light Shine. Once again, my name is Lady Angela Ohabunwa. I'm the host of this wonderful program for today. I'd like us to take our text from the book of Genesis, chapter 2, verse 18. I read, "The Lord said, it is not good for the man to be alone, and I will make a helper suitable for him." So we can see from this passage that marriage is originated by God. God looked at mankind and saw that it is not good for a man to be alone. That is why he initiated marriage from the very beginning. And if you go further, you can see that marriage originated from Adam and Eve. And in today's program, we have special guests that came all the way from Australia on their missionary trip to Nigeria 2007. Close to me, I have Nellie Lichfield. You're welcome. And then next to her is her wonderful husband, Dr. Bruce. You're welcome. It's good to have you with us on the studio. And next to him, we have Pauline Lister. Am I right?
That's right.
Okay. In today's edition, we're going to look at God's shining light in a successful marriage. And Dr. Bruce, I'd like you to enlighten us on God's pattern, God's plan for a successful Christian marriage.
Thank you. Well, in Matthew 19, when Jesus was being attacked by the Jews and asked difficult questions about adultery and divorce, Jesus says from the beginning it was not so. From the beginning. So if we want God's plan for marriage, we must go right back to the beginning. And the beginning is in Genesis chapters 1 and 2. Including the verses you mentioned. That is God's design for marriage, and many important principles about marriage are presented in those chapters. It's the first thing that God did with humanity. He created Adam and Eve, and he instituted marriage. I believe that there are three very important institutions in society. One is marriage and the family, the other one is the church, and the third one is government. And marriage is the most important, and it forms a foundation for the other two. And if marriage and family are weak, the others will also be weak. So we believe that family ministry work and training in marriage is extremely important to build up not only our own families and churches, but also the whole of our society.
Okay. Why is marriage very, very essential in the life of a man or a woman? Why is it very important?
God created Adam and Eve in his image, so there must be something about God that relates to man and woman, to marriage, in his image. And God created the animals and the birds, male and female, created he them. And then he created Adam. But there was no female at the beginning. We don't know how long that period was until he created Eve. But he said it's not good for man to be alone. And I believe we can also say it's not good for woman to be alone. So he created a helpmate for Adam, and he brought them together. And that's how marriage began.
Okay. Ephesians, in the book of Ephesians, chapter 5, verse 22 to 25, it talks about husbands showing love to their wives, even as Christ, loved the church and gave his life for the church. So how can a Christian husband show love to his dear wife?
It's a very high standard that God is expecting from husbands. And no husband can reach that level because we're not perfect. We have our failures, our faults, but that's the objective that we should be aiming for. That's the divine standard, and we should be constantly patterning our marriages on Christ's love for the church. And that means we really love our wives, we nourish them, we cherish them, just like we would cherish ourselves.
Okay.
That means we don't treat them poorly.
Okay. You talked about not being perfect, even if it's a love from God, or trying to love the wife. So in a situation where the husband is not so perfect, how do you handle it as a Christian wife to your husband?
So you meaning that if my husband's not kind to me, what do I do?
Yeah.
I speak to him respectfully and tell him that I do not appreciate the way that he's speaking to me.
We can like, oh honey, don't do this again and all that, and we continue the marriage. And now I'd like you to, the Bible still talks about submission. Wives, be submissive to your husband in all things. So how do you show submission to your husband? How? To submit to him?
I believe that God has put our husbands as head of the family, but I do believe that God has given us a voice and an intelligence to be a helpmate to him. And I think that as my husband respects me, I can respect him, but I need to be able to be respectful in the way that I speak to him.
Okay. So when he shows you love, respect comes automatically. You don't force it. It just comes naturally.
No, because in a relationship there are 4 aspects: love, trust, respect and understanding, and that is a great component between a relationship between a husband and wife.
Okay, okay. You want to add something to what she said?
I agree with what Nellie has said,
Yeah.
but I think also a very important element is forgiveness.
Okay.
And so we talk about, yes, husband, I'm really hurt and I do not like you to act like this, but I know in my past life, years ago, God just said to me, forgive your husband. So it was my heart that also needed to be changed, that because Jesus forgives me so much, that I also can forgive my husband so much.
Very good. You talked about in God's law, the husband and the wife is equal. When you were ministering in the church, I heard you, Dr. Bruce, said something like that the husband and the wife are equal. That in African culture, the men don't treat their wives well. He said especially in Uganda or whatever where you went to. And that they see them as second-class citizens. So to what extent can you discuss this or give us word of advice on how to treat the men, give the men word of advice on how to treat the women?
Yes, I strongly believe that men and women are equal in God's sight. The husband and wife are equal. God has created each one in his image. They are both children of God. They both receive God's Holy Spirit. They receive gifts from God, and they both can minister. So they're equal. And the wonderful example in the New Testament is Aquila and Priscilla. And their names are mentioned 6 times in the New Testament. His name is mentioned 3 times first, and her name is mentioned 3 times first.
Okay.
Which means that they are equal in God's work. They are called fellow labourers with Paul. So, but what happens in African culture is, especially where the dowry system is operating, that a man buys his wife, there's so many cows and bags of sugar, and he thinks he owns his wife. But he never owns his wife. She belongs to God. and he's been given the care and the custody of his wife. He
Okay.
doesn't own his wife. And when they say they own their wife, they think they can do what they like with their wife. So they beat them, they treat them badly, they make them do all the work. This is not only in Uganda, but in most African countries we have found this. And it is wrong. It's completely wrong, and I believe that God is very angry about this kind of treatment that the women are receiving.
Okay. I'm just hearing it for the first time that the man and woman is equal. Because in Africa we always see the man as the king, the head of the home. Thank you very much. I believe God will teach us many more things to know about our home.
But in one sense, let me clarify that, in one sense, the man is the head. Yes, he is the head. And but that doesn't mean he domineers. It's not.
Yeah.
It is not lordship. It is headship.
Yes.
That means it's subtle.
Yeah.
It is indirect, influencing his wife, not laying down the law. There's a
Okay.
big difference between headship and lordship.
Okay. And the Bible talks about the woman as the helpmate, right? But you see a lot of men allowing the woman to do everything. They don't do anything in the marriage. They don't support their wives. I like you to give them advice on how to do things.
Yes, well, that's very common, and women do most of the work in the home. They are responsible for bringing up the children. I believe that both parents should be equally involved in those things, certainly in parenting. And the husband should take up his responsibilities in the home and help his wife as much as he can. Because if he's working long hours, that makes a bit of a difference, but he still should help her as much as he possibly can.
Okay, so who is the priest in the home? Because sometimes the men just lie down there. They don't join morning devotion, evening devotion. The woman does everything with the children.
The husband should give a lead in the home. He should give a lead in everything. He should
Okay.
give a lead spiritually. He should give a lead in priestly activities. He should give a lead in prayer. He should give a lead in modeling forgiveness and other things like that.
Okay, okay. So mention some qualities that we can copy from a successful marriage that will enable us to build a strong godly home.
Well, I think there's many references all the way through the Bible of how husbands and wives work together and godly women exercise influence. And I think it's important in that passage in Ephesians 5 where it says, "Wives, submit to your own husbands." The verse immediately before that says, "Submit to one another," which means a husband sometimes has to submit to his wife because she may be right and he may be wrong. And she may be more skilled in handling finance than he does, so it's best for her to do that. So this mutual respect and mutual submission, I think, is very important in marriage.
Okay, so it talks about understanding.
On the what?
Understanding each other in the marriage.
Understanding.
Understanding.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Okay, how do we express our emotional love, to our spouses, either the husband or the wife?
That's a very important question. And wives need a lot of physical affection. They need a lot of affirmation from their husbands. They need a lot of admiration and appreciation expressed verbally and also physically. Plenty of affection. And I mean non-sexual affection. Non-sexual affection.
How? Okay.
Holding hands.
Okay.
Walking down the street, holding your wife's hand. Giving her a hug.
Okay.
Giving her a kiss.
Okay.
Women love non-sexual affection.
A
They
lot.
can't have too much. And if the husband gives her plenty of this kind of affection, she will have no trouble responding to his number one need, and that is sexual affection.
Okay. Okay. What if you are showing this affection to the woman and she's not responding? You know, like somehow, don't touch me, I'm tired. Yeah.
Oh, well, that's, the husband must respect that also. So, but most women like it. They love this kind of non-sexual affection and appreciation.
I do. I do.
I'm sure you do.
Yeah. I
And
do
if you ask other women, they all say, yes, I love it. And I don't get much. And I think many women are very unhappy because they don't get this kind of affection from their husbands.
So how should a woman react if she's not getting this kind of affection from her husband? I'm going to ask Pauline now.
I'll talk more personally, because I know that I would say to my husband, I really like it when you come and sit next to me.
Mm-hmm.
Or, can you come for a walk with me? I like it when you hold my hand. When you talk to me, I like it when you look into my eyes. And you know, my husband, he will just melt and he will do what I like.
Okay.
So in the way we can be mutually pleasing to each other.
Okay. You like him to tell you, oh, you look beautiful, this dress looks good on you?
Yes, I don't like it all the time because it needs to be natural.
Yeah, okay.
So when he means it, I like him to say it. But, you know, he also says to me, Pauline, I like it when you just touch me like this. It
Okay.
makes me feel good. So even if we're out at a function, he likes it if I just sometimes stand close to him.
Okay.
So we
Okay.
communicate our needs.
Okay. Thank you. Like interfering in your marriage. Third person interference. Is it acceptable?
If somebody interferes with your marriage,
Is it acceptable?
no, it's not.
Mm-hmm.
Genesis says, the two shall become one flesh. They are a separate unit. And one of the big problems in marriage is that when people get married, they do not leave their father and mother.
Okay.
And sometimes the relationship with the parents is greater than their relationship with their spouse. And that can cause big, big problems.
Okay.
We say if you don't leave, you can't cleave.
Okay. If you don't leave, you cannot cleave. Are you trying to say that the parents should be forsaken completely?
No, I'm not saying that.
Okay.
I'm not saying that, but I mean they should not be allowed to interfere, and there should not be a strong bond
Okay.
with any of those parents
yeah.
that would interfere with the marriage.
Okay. Thank you very much. It's good to have you with us on the studio, and we've learned a lot from you today. We'll be going on a short break now. When we come back, we'll talk more on successful marriage for God. Thank you for being with us. Welcome to Let Your Light Shine. This program will enable you to live a godly life. Wherever you find yourself, you should minister the gospel of salvation. Darkness and light cannot intermarry. Keep shining. Welcome back on Let Your Light Shine. We'll be talking about finance now. There's a passage in the Bible that says that a man that cannot take care of his family, that cannot cater for his family, is worse than an infidel. I'd like you to enlighten us on that topic.
And
Is it right? Because sometime in the home, the woman is richer than the man. So,
Well, we strongly believe that everything begins at home, and you are no greater outside the home than what you are at home. Christianity begins at home.
Yeah.
And that means your relationship with your spouse, it means your relationship with your children. That's where it all begins. It also says in Timothy that if a man cannot care for his house, how can he care for the things of the house of God? And he's disqualified if he's not able to care for things at home.
Okay. So, are you trying to say that a woman who is doing better than her husband financially should not go into the marriage? Like the woman is richer than the man. Are you trying to say she shouldn't get married to a man that she's richer than?
No, I'm not saying that.
Because a lot of women that are doing better than their husbands, especially in our culture, don't treat their husbands well.
They must always respect their husband as the head of the home. It says that in Ephesians 5, that they're to be submissive and respectful to their husbands. Doesn't matter how gifted they are or how much money they've got, it doesn't make any difference.
That's what I want to hear.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So she should be very good to her husband still.
Of course.
Yeah, I believe so. I think so. Dr. Bruce, when you were teaching in the church, you talked about teaching the children about sex on time so that they will not fall victims, in destruction. So I'd like you to enlighten us, because a lot of parents don't want to say that, talk about sex to their children or educate them.
That is a very big problem we've come across in many parts of the world, and it's a particularly big problem in Africa. People don't talk about sex. And yet the Bible speaks a lot about sex, but we don't talk about sex. We don't talk about it in our families. Even husbands and wives don't speak about it much. We don't speak about it in our churches, in our communities. And yet there's so many sexual problems. So many. And it's wrong to let children grow up without having a proper understanding of this developing sexuality. That means they've got to learn it from other people, maybe from their friends at school, and they will get a very distorted, wrong. It's the parents' job to teach their children about sex. And I was so concerned about that I wrote a book on this story, on this matter of how to talk with your child about sex. I was teaching this in Uganda, and one lady came up to me with 3 little children. She said, "I don't know what to say to my children. Can you help me?" So I wrote this little book, and we've given out thousands of copies of this book. It tells you the exact words you can say to your children about every sexual issue that can come up. And we believe that this should begin, this sex education, from about the age of 3, 4, and be progressive right through until they're teenagers.
Really?
So when they become teenagers, they should have a pretty good understanding about sex.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'd like you to mention some things that we can do that will enable us to have a successful marriage, long-lasting marriage, enjoyable marriage.
The number one need for a typical husband is sexual fulfillment. Number 2 is recreational companionship. The husband wants a wife who can be with him in his recreational times. Not necessarily all the time, but some of the time.
Okay.
But we believe strongly that if the husband meets his wife's 2 leading needs, conversation on a deep level and non-sexual affection, she will have no trouble meeting his leading needs.
Okay.
Now, of course, there are spiritual elements as well which need to be considered, and I think marriage is like a triangle. 3 people. You've got the Lord Jesus Christ, and you've got the husband and the wife. And as the husband and wife draw closer to Jesus in their relationship with him, they will also draw closer together. So it's very important to bring that 3rd person into the relationship at all times and have a Christ-centered marriage. a Christ-centered home. And if you've got that, it'll be a happy marriage and family and a happy home.
Okay. Pauline, tell us how we can raise godly children in our homes.
One of the first things I believe in raising godly children is to believe that they are a gift from God and that you would nurture them and cherish them, model good behaviour, mother and father modelling good behaviour in front of the children.
Okay.
So as we model good behaviour, the children will also behave like that. So if mother is loving to the husband and the husband is kind to the wife, the children will become like that too.
Okay.
So constantly dedicating them back to God because they are a gift from God and treating them as precious gifts.
Okay. So how do you react to their needs?
To their children's needs?
Needs in the home.
To how do I react to our children's needs?
Yeah.
Our children have a very strong need for self-worth and acceptance. And when we do, and significance, a purpose for them. So when we meet those needs of letting them be little princesses or princes for Christ, treating them like precious gifts, they will have significance in the world.
Okay.
And they will know why they are alive. They will have the worth, because when mummy and daddy love them as Christ loves us, they will just be beautiful children. And also discipline is important.
Okay.
We discipline wisely our children.
In love.
In love, and that means communicating well, good eye contact, meeting our children at their level, not standing over them, towering over them like bosses, but just treating them like special children and gifts from God.
Okay. We've come to the end of this program. And I believe that the light of God cannot shine in your life without a successful marriage. Irrelevant. That's not true. Every gift in the house of God is for edification of the body. So everyone is important in their various capacity of service. So the gift of faith is silent, the gift of service. So you should do things very well to create a beautiful environment, to create a beautiful atmosphere for worship. Keep shining as you apply the wisdom of God.